Ghana's Agricultural Minister Dr. Ebrahim has revealed that the country is turning to organic fertilizer now to make up for the importation of inorganic fertilizer, which is beginning to face serious challenges. But an organic compost producer is warning against over-reliance on organic fertilizer. This comes as African Union focuses on food security in commemoration of this year's AU Day, which falls today. We'll be talking more about that and what the situation is like on the continent. But first, let's hear from the Agric Minister in the following report put together by Samuel Kujubris.
Last year, if you compare the amount of fertilizer distributed to our farmers, you will see a sharp drop this year. From January to May, the amounts that have been distributed are nothing to write home about.
Ghana's Agric Minister Dr. Ebrahim, admitting that the country is facing acute fertilizer shortage this year. After several months of farmers warning of the lack of fertilizers and thereby raising the cost of the few available, Dr. Akoto, at a meeting with producers and importers of fertilizer, has said the quantities supplied this year are nothing to write home about.
There's an acute shortage of agrochemicals generally, and fertilizers in particular, because of what is happening in Ukraine and Russia, and the sanctions and all those things breaking the supply chains and making global trading very, very difficult. If you compare at the end of May for the last 4 years, the amount of fertilizer distributed to our farmers, you will see a sharp drop this year. We reckon that the demand for fertilizer in Ghana is about 600,000 metric tons. And so far this year, we haven't even done 100,000 metric tons. So we are way, way off.
Dr. Ebrahim, in admitting the difficulties, explained that organic fertilizer might probably be the game changer now, since organic agriculture itself even fetches high premium on the international market.
Farmers only last year at the beginning of the season were paying 120 cedis per bag of 50 kilograms. Now you'll be lucky to have it for 400 cedis if you even see a bag. And we find that the solution lies in organic fertilizer. I mean, organic agriculture has taken a huge premium on the international markets, sometimes as high as 50% price increase if a product is produced organically. So, and we have a lot of fauna, flora around, and a lot of garbage that we throw away, which could be used for fertilization. I've seen Zoom Lion, for instance. We've been having a trading arrangement where they give us some organic fertilizer. And so are some of the companies that I've had here. But what I've picked up is that given the opportunity, you can supply far more than that.
But Michael Padituo, the managing director of the Accra Compost and Recycling Plant, is cautioning against relying only on organic fertilizer.
I must put this into context. There's no way we can replace the inorganic fertilizer market completely with compost, because the literature even suggests that when you put the two together, the impact or the effect is more than either of them. You understand? And because compost is bulky, per acre, the amount of compost you needed to complement the effect of inorganic is quite enormous, and we need to be careful when we are speaking to those things. Yes, compost has its own advantages. I mean, because of the organic matter in it, contributes to, healing and then bringing back the soil health.
So maybe once the ministry is encouraging the use of organic fertilizer, it must also do well to enhance the importation or production of the inorganic fertilizer, since organic alone might not be ideal. For JoyNews, Samuel Kujubris reporting.
And as we celebrate Africa Union Day today, there's an urgent call for strategic investment in the seed system of 6 staple crops in Ghana, including rice. This year's celebration is centered on nutrition, with the theme strengthening resilience in nutrition and food security on the African continent. Head of the West Africa Center for Crop Improvement, Professor Eric Dankwa, says the importation of seeds and subsidized fertilizers for farmers and the delay in supply of those seeds are some of the reasons the continent will find it difficult to meet its aspirations as far as food security is concerned. We can now speak with senior lecturer at the University of Ghana and coordinator of research programs at the West Africa Center for Crop Improvement, Daniel Jijonyo, who joins me via Zoom, and my colleague Joseph Opoku-Gakpo also joining us for this conversation. First, let's make an assessment of the continent in terms of efforts to clear the continent of hunger. Any progress yet, Doc? Hello, Doc. Dr. Jijonyo, kindly. Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Yes, we've all come to accept that when the population of the world is going to increase, and of course, Africa, and for that matter, most of the developing countries are going to be one of the areas where this population is going to increase. And there's the need to feed the growing population, and currently we are struggling to feed the current population, and we need to do more in order to feed the growing population come 2050, since the world is going to, population of the world is projected to increase. So we need to continue to work on improving the staples that feed us to ensure that we continue to feed ourselves. As I mentioned, we are currently having challenges feeding ourselves. So we need to continue to invest into the agricultural sector to continue to feed the growing population.
Opoku-Gakpo, I mean, you report a lot in this area. You've been around the continent looking for stories that has to do with agriculture and food security. Recently, you were in Nigeria for a similar activity. What have you found?
Well, clearly, challenges like COVID-19 have made the problems with food security on the continent even worse. The estimates point to how over the last 2 years or so, an additional 20 million plus people across the continent have fallen into food insecurity challenges, thanks to what we're seeing with the COVID-19 pandemic, which we are all trying to recover from. Looks like on the health front, we've made some progress in terms of recovering from the impact of it. But when it comes to issues like food insecurity, that much progress has not been made. And recently as well, the challenges with accessing inputs like fertilizers as a result of the Russia and the Ukraine crisis has further deepened the challenges with food prices on the continent. And so over the last few months, then the indications are that across board, we've seen like a 20% hike in the prices of various food commodities across the continent. And it's obviously a very worrying situation. So clearly, things are getting worse than getting better. Pre the COVID-19 pandemic, there was a lot of progress as far as the efforts at meeting the Sustainable Development Goal on ensuring zero hunger by 2030, which, although we were off track in meeting it, there was a bit of optimism. But these two specific incidents that I cite have further worsened the problem. And we've probably moved back the efforts at meeting those 2030 goals by another 10 to 15 years.
Dr. Jijonyo, in Ghana, your outfit, I mean the West Africa Center for Crop Improvement, is calling for strategic investment in some 6 staple crops. What are these crops that you're talking about, and why is there the need for strategic investment?
So the West Africa Center for Crop Improvement, who has been championing the food and nutrition challenges we face on the continent, is calling for strategic investment in 6 crops, mainly cassava, tomato, rice, cowpea, sorghum, and soybean. And so we're calling for strategic investments in these areas. We want to strengthen the seed systems of these crops. For any real transformation, agricultural transformation initiative, we need improvement in seed systems. And when we strengthen the seed systems of these crops, we believe that we will make a giant step towards ensuring food security. And why is this 6 crops? For instance, look at the import bill of rice, for instance. We import about $500 million of rice annually. I mean, that is a huge bill for a single crop. And when you take tomato as well, tomato is a major staple in Ghana. And when you take tomato, for instance, we import huge amounts of tomatoes into the country. And again, most of the varieties of the crops being grown, or some of the crops I mentioned being grown, are low yielding due to myriad of challenges that these crops face. So what do we need to do? We need to continue to invest into the improvement of these crops. And Joseph mentioned some of the challenges that are confronting us currently, but when you look at most of the crops that we grow in Ghana, most of them are very low yielding, though the crops have high yielding potentials. So based on climate change challenges and many other challenges, so what we need to do, continue to do, is to continue to improve on these crops so that these crops will continue to have the resilience that is necessary, so that when the challenges confront these crops will continue to yield high value, so that we continue. If we don't invest into this, our farmers will continue to grow old varieties of crops that are low yielding, that have myriad of challenges when it comes to terms of disease resistance and many other challenges that confront these crops. So we need to continue to invest in these crops to ensure that we get the yielding potentials of these crops if we want to achieve food security.
Well, the debate about GMOs has also come up strongly, and we've had back and forth. In your recent communique, you spoke about GMOs not being best for us as a continent. On what basis do you suggest so?
Sorry, sorry, say that again.
In your recent communique, you spoke about GMOs and you targeted GMO activists, explaining to Ghanaians that we should actually look out for other means that best work for us, because you think GMOs do not work for us, in Ghana. On what basis do you make that suggestion?
Just to clarify a point, we never said that GMOs are not best for Ghana.
Okay.
That was not our communique.
What exactly did you communicate?
What we were advocating for is, GM technology is one of the technologies that have been developed for agriculture over the years. And since the first GM crops were released about 27 years ago, there has not been a single scientific evidence to show that these crops are bad for food or feed. Not a single scientific evidence. So what we are advocating for is that technologies have been developed. One of such technologies is transgenics technology, which gives us the genetically modified crops that we were talking about. There have been fierce opposition to this technology over the years, and much of this has come from developing countries where the technology is much needed. So what we are calling for is that we need to integrate technologies that will advance agriculture. We are not calling solely for only GM technology. Of course, as I mentioned, GM technology is just one such technology developed for agriculture, and it has the potential to help us make progress in this field. So we are calling for adoption of technology. Technologies such as GM technologies, and as I mentioned, there has not been a single evidence to otherwise say that this technology is bad for us, not a single scientific evidence. So we are calling for adoption of technologies such as GM technology to ensure that our fight for food and nutrition security does not pass us by as a continent and as a country. And we are aware that efforts are underway to ensure the release of products from GM technology, and one such is the cowpea, which is resistant to one of the devastating pests of the crop. And process is ongoing to ensure that these crops hit the market, to ensure that our farmers will not continue to suffer from low yields resulting from the devastating effect of these pests. So we are calling for adoption of technologies such as GM technology.
Doc, before I let you go, you're worried that as a country we will have additional mouths to feed by 2030. What do you recommend we do to deal with our food insecurity? I mean, recently we've been battling with whether we are going to be short-chained, in terms of food or not. And then there were predictions of imminent food crisis. What are your recommendations to deal with these challenges?
So going back to our communique that we released recently, we're calling for investment into the agricultural sector. We know government has made various efforts in ensuring that we become food secure. We have come a long way. We have done a lot, but there's still gaps. And we are calling for the investment in, for instance, let me take you back on the research fund, for instance. Since the president assented to the National Research Fund, I'm not aware of a single dollar that has been placed into this fund. And we are calling for investment. And we, for instance, for a start, are calling for investment in 6 crops that I mentioned earlier, into the food systems of this crop, the seed system, to ensure we have a robust seed system in the country, where we develop improved varieties, make these improved varieties available to farmers, to ensure that farmers continue to benefit from this sector. And we are aware, agriculture, for instance, contributes to the 22% of Ghana's agricultural GDP. That is a huge figure. And we are calling for investment into this sector, not only for the food and nutrition security aspect, but also this sector will help us improve on the socio-economic development of this country. So we are calling for investment in food sector, and we, for a start, are calling for 6 crops that I mentioned earlier.
But let me bring you in here. From some of the international agri seminars that you have attended, what insights can you share with us? In terms of improving upon food security on the continent as well as Ghana, more importantly? So,
Aisha, quickly, let me deal with the Ghana angle. Then we can expand on the conversation in that regard. We are in a particularly difficult situation, whichever way you look at it. And I'm looking at data from last year, which actually showed that the price of maize, for example, rose by somewhere in the region of 56% between the beginning of the year and October last year. Plantain rose by 74%, tomato rose by 44%, yam rose by 20%, and fresh pepper rose by 54%. And this is data analyzed from statistics put out by the Ministry of Food and Agriculture itself. Of course, over the last few months, things have worsened with challenges in getting access to things like fertilizers and all. And this is all happening despite the rhetoric that the Planting for Food and Jobs program has made food abundantly available for all of us. And so that's the kind of worrying trend that we are speaking of. What we need to do differently, earlier in the year, myself and a colleague, Sebwa Faseduji, who works in Germany, published an article drawing the Agric Minister's attention to 5 critical things that need to be done differently if we can help deal with some of these challenges. The first of it, we asked that he pays attention to the rising cost of food, which is mainly attributed to the rising cost of things like transportation and inputs like fertilizers, which we really need to tackle. So that certainly requires some attention. The dependence on foreign support to run agricultural sector is certainly problematic, and we need to change course in that regard. When you look at the 2022 budget, for example, we then saw indications that up to 26% or so of the budget would be coming from abroad, when we all know that in these times of the COVID-19 pandemic and all, resources are being shifted more to the health area than the agricultural sector. No one grows the agri sector just depending on foreign sources in order to then raise money to manage it. The other thing we sought to draw attention to was the challenge with irrigation. It's one of the most powerful things that would make huge difference in agriculture. So then we asked that more attention should be paid to the One Village, One Dam initiative, to then also work with the Ghana Irrigation Development Authority to then help provide the necessary resources to irrigate our fields. In summary, the point is that the solution to the challenges cannot be short-term. They need to be long-term in nature. And that's the bridge I'll use to then look at the broader continental bit. 2 days ago, I saw a statement from the African Development Bank. They are holding a meeting in Accra, and they announced some measures to deal with the rising cost of food on the continent. And among others, if my memory serves me right, they indicated that they are allocating a $1.5 billion facility to then help stabilize the price of food across the continent. And the funny thing is, the indication was that these amounts will be invested in the purchase of fertilizers and the production of certified seeds. The question I asked myself is, how does that constitute a short-term solution to a raging problem? Because the seeds now have to be bought, planted, and they will grow within a year or a year and a half. So certainly you are looking at more long-term solutions than short-term. If we fail to plan, we may never solve some of these challenges. So then it goes back to that, the need for us to pay more attention to long-term planning in dealing with some of these challenges. And it goes back to the point about more investment in our seed system, more investment in local fertilizer industries. And if Aisha, you give me a minute, let me weigh into the conversation around organic and inorganic fertilizers. I also think it's a very bad idea that we would want to rely on organic fertilizers solely for our needs as a people. Again, just to quote some statistics have shown that if you would want to just produce organic fertilizers solely from cow to then grow corn, over a 1 year period, you will need as much as 200 cows defecating over a 1 year period to have enough fertilizer to be able to grow 1 hectare of corn for 1 season. So just imagine the logistical challenges, almost unsustainable. Let's consider more sustainable, more realistic solutions that actually work to some of these in terms of dealing with some of these challenges. And that's probably what the way forward should look like.
I'm grateful for your time, gentlemen. Opoku Gakpo is my own colleague here at JoyNews. Dr. Daniel Jijenyo is senior lecturer at the University of Ghana and coordinator of research programs at the West Africa Center for Crop Improvement. Extremely grateful for your time. Let's move on to other stories. The Carnation Hospital has resumed work after it was closed down yesterday due to flooding. The hospital was among several facilities, including homes, vehicles, bridges, and major roads, which were swept off by the rains in Accra on Tuesday. My colleague Enes Ahimfo went back to the Carnation Hospital Polyclinic this morning to ascertain the situation there and joins us live in the studio. Enes, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. You did a great job yesterday. What did you find today?
Well, in order to paint the accurate picture, I would want to put in perspective yesterday.
What happened yesterday?
So yesterday, as at the time that I got there around 9:15. The place was very muddy. The entire facility was flooded. I understand that the flood came from the Gamanche Palace. That is a wall dividing the facility, the hospital facility, and the Gamanche Palace. It got broken, and then the water guys through that end, through to the facility.
Yeah.
So the entire place was flooded. Yesterday, the emergency ward, the OPD, the children's department, everywhere was flooded. So I saw the staff who were actually trying to clear the place themselves. I was told that they had called the NADMO officials to come in to help them salvage the situation. But when they came in, they told them that they are going to, as it were, rescue other people. Okay. So then they will come back. I was there till 12, and they were still not back. So I came back to the studio. But this morning, I went there for the aftermath to see what was happening. And I must commend the staff members. They've done a very fantastic job. They've cleared the place. And healthcare delivery service was ongoing from the OPD department. You could see that a lot of people were there being attended to. I proceeded to the emergency ward to see the current situation, and the place was also cleared. I saw even some patients in there. I went to the pharmacy office. Even though they've lost some drugs, they had been able to clear the place, and then they were doing their work as they should. However, authorities didn't want to speak. They wouldn't allow us to speak to any of the patients there. But I was told that the AMA mayor had been there and promised to solve the situation in the shortest possible time this morning. So healthcare delivery right now at the Kanishi Polyclinic is ongoing.
It's ongoing. But yesterday we were unable to tell whether there were some patients on admission and where they had sent them to. Were you able to get that information?
Yeah, so I asked, but then no answer will be given. Because at the time that I went there, I didn't see any patient there. So it presupposes that maybe if they had, they would have relocated them to other hospitals. Because the place and then the nature of the hospital at the time wasn't conducive enough for the delivery of healthcare. Yes. I saw some patients yesterday who were very angry. Some were coming in expecting to be attended to them immediately, but then look at the situation.
They were
the staff are actually engaged in cleaning the place, so you wouldn't even want to be treated in such a condition.
Yes, such an environment.
Yeah, but this morning they've done a very good job. The delivery of healthcare is ongoing at the moment.
Okay, and
everyone patients are
being taken care of.
Yes, please.
And as I info, thank you so much for your time. Meanwhile, some flood victims in Nima and close to the president's residence are appealing to government to fix a major drain which overflows and washes away their property anytime it rains. A number of them tried salvaging their belongings by jumping into the drain into yesterday's drains. Justice Beidou has more.
Inusa Nurahu hasn't slept all night. He lives in Nima and has been trekking in a desperate attempt to find his motorbike.
We walk all the way from Nima to Paloma, whether we can see something to remove or something. No, there's no way. We have to exercise patience. The day should break. The water should come down before we see if we can get our properties. No, we can't. We didn't get anything. We lose everything.
Inusa is one of many residents here who have taken things in their own hands, chasing and trying to salvage as much as they can from the water.
We live with the president in the community. The president, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, live next street. So if the president live next street and the gutter just behind his house is like this, then it's unfortunate. Because when the president even baths, the wastewater of the president ends here. And this is also a piece of an advice to the MPP government. If you want to break the 8 and you live in your big cars, excuse me to say, in your big cars, in your big offices, and you sit there and you say you want to break the 8, it's your own cup of tea.
When the June 3rd disaster happened and more than 150 people got killed, this gutter here was one of the worst affected places. It was hoped then that that disaster was going to change something about emergency preparedness in the capital city.
When it starts raining, you are in fear, you don't know what can happen. So you start calling on God to have mercy or to let the rain subside. If it doesn't happen and the rain takes its full course, then it means that all the rooms will be taken over by the flood. And we have to bring everything out, sweep the water out, and then year in, year out, the same story. The same story. And I live in this house with kids. But my youngest boy is about 2 years, 5 months. That's my wife. So the whole of yesterday night, we've been standing till this morning.
In this house nearby, Pastor Zakaria Adomako is hard at work, pumping out water from his flooded compound. He has been up since 2 a.m. Tuesday morning. This is the second time in 1 week that his house has come underwater.
All the rooms will be taken over by the flood, and we have to bring everything out, sweep the water out, and then year in, year out is the same story.
Inside the house, her wife and children have all been up all night too, standing in water.
Normally when it's the adult, you know that at least the waist is, but the child, the baby, the 2-year-old boy, what will happen if I'm carrying him and God forbid he slips out of my hand? What would have happened? When I see the rains, I think the only thing I think about is life. God give us life again. Then I ran up to go and wait till it subside. But when will I be able to, if I don't wake up like I always do, what would have happened?
This is Accra's annual flooding story script, read all over again. And the worst part of this year's rainy season isn't even here yet. Justice Beidou, JoyNews, Accra.
The Electoral Commission says some political parties are on its radar for sanctions due to their failure to comply with the Political Parties Act 2000, Act 574. This act mandates them to have their accounting books audited and officers in 2/3 of the districts across the country. However, many parties have not met these provisions. Chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Jean Mensah, made this revelation during an inspection tour of some registered political parties in the country. According to her, the law is explicit that such parties should be struck off if they do not have the legal requirements to operate.
As you may be aware, the Commission has a team of directors and its staff, both regional staff and our district staff in the field currently. And over the next 2 weeks, we are undertaking inspections of the political party offices at the regional office and at the district offices. And at the national center as well. And so we, as a commission, felt that it would be important ourselves as commissioners to be part of these processes. And so for the first time in our history, commissioners are going out of their way to pay visits to the political parties' offices at the national level and at the regional levels as well. And so I think this is the first stop. The CPP is the first office. And over the course of the day, we'll be visiting the CPP and some other offices. But this is the first stop. And as I mentioned, we would also pay visits at the regional levels as well. But we felt that it's not always, it's not ideal to sit in our head office and not go down into the field. There are many parties who have never had offices across the country and who continue to remain on the register. To date, we have 28 political parties on the register, and we have about 12 or so parties that have applied for licenses. And we know that the threshold for becoming a political party is very, very low. So we thought that, we are more than an election organizing, entity. Our role is to exercise oversight of the parties, and by this I'm referring to their financial accountability and responsibility as well. And then, of course, the inspection of the party. So it's not a witch hunt. And so where you find that you may have your leases have run out and so on, it's not something that the CPP or any other party will be penalized for.
Women participation in politics in Ghana is low, both at local and the national level. This reflects the global trend of women participation in politics. From research, some major problems identified as the main barriers to women participation in Ghanaian politics include women in Ghana earning low incomes coupled with low educational status. Also, lack of confidence was found to be a barrier because the women explained that politics is for men. But some few women have braced the risk and have put themselves up for election in the upcoming regional executive elections of the New Patriotic Party. One of them, Rotha Ife-Ishen, who is vying for the position of Western Regional Treasurer, has joined me in the studio for more. First, let me congratulate you for taking up this bold decision. How has it been?
By grace. It's been good.
It's been good, right? Right, and I know you win. But first, let's look at the motivation, because over the period, women have been skeptical in taking up such risk because they say it's a preserve for men. What's the motivation to participate in this election?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to your listeners. My motivation is to help advance the cause of gender advocacy. And I believe that when women are given roles in leadership or in politics, it helps advance and also improve our lives. In that, women, we all know, could always do better than men when given the opportunity. So I believe women should be given fair representation in the political front to be able to do more.
Now, you want to become the treasurer of the new patriotic party.
Yes, please.
Why? What are you bringing on board? Why should the delegates vote for you?
Thank you very much. I believe my delegates know me very well. They know Rhoda. I have been with them. I'm a grassroots person. I have been with them from 2016, from 2012, 2016, all through to 2020. We have worked hand in hand with them at the various constituency level, and they know what I'm capable of doing. I organized Loyal Ladies in Western Region in 2016 and in 2020. We fought very hard in 2016 from opposition to power, and we fought very hard to retain power in 2020. And everyone knows about volunteerism. Loyal Ladies is a voluntary group. Everyone knows about volunteerism. Everyone knows that no one actually gives out to volunteers. You always have to seek for sponsors to sponsor your programs. So Rhoda has been doing this right from 2016 till date, looking for resources to equip or resource my ladies in the Western region to work hard. Loyal Ladies is constituency based in Western region. So we have 17 constituencies in Western region, but we are privileged to have Loyal Ladies in 16 of the constituencies in Western region, who basically work from morning till night during the campaign period, and are still working hard to complement the activities of the constituency executives. So I believe with that, mobilizing human resources, we equally mobilize financial resources to finance the activities of Loyal Ladies. And we didn't do bad at all. We did so well in that regard. Because if you come to Western region, Loyal Ladies is the most vibrant and visible group elsewhere. We are everywhere and everybody knows about us. Everybody knows the work we did, the health screenings we did, the car wash we did, the float, the door-to-door, most especially in the 2020 elections. You know, we did the retail campaign. So we did door-to-door, house-to-house campaign, shops-to-shops, and all that. And Loyal Ladies, we have done so well. I believe that with this, my people know the essence of pushing a grassroots person to occupy such a position, because we are with them and we know what they go through. We know how much resources they need to be able to do what is expected of them at the constituency level. So when the mandate is being given to me, our major focus is to help mobilize as much resources to equip or resource the constituency people to be able to do what is expected of them, ultimately breaking the 8 in the end.
Breaking the 8, and I'm happy you talk about breaking the 8 as a treasurer. And what's one policy that your people will benefit from you? I mean, differently from what has happened with your the other treasurers in the Western region.
Thank you very much. One thing that is so dear to my heart is the welfare scheme. Okay, I always say that when you go to Parliament, parliamentarians work at the end of the day. There's something called end of service benefit or ex gratia. But in this case, we have people serving in different capacities in the party. At the end of the day, what do they seek to achieve? Actually nothing. So what is so dear to my heart, or what I really want to bring on board, is to pay attention to the health of these people. I know when a party person is bereaved, or when we lose a party member, the party has its own way of supporting. But their health is also important, most especially the aged ones. We have a lot of people who are retirees. They serve the party in different capacities and are sick. And it's difficult for them to even access funds to go to the hospital to get to being taken care of at the hospital. So I believe that one thing that is so dear to my heart is to put together resources to be able to equip the constituencies, take care of such people. Because if you're able to do that, mind you, these people have children and grandchildren. If you're able to take care of their health, they would also tell the whole world the benefit they have derived or gotten from the party, and it will help sell the party.
In good light. Thank you very much, Rhoda Ife-Ishan. Wish you luck in the upcoming elections, and we'll take a break on JoyNews Desk. When we return, there's a very latest coming from the world of business.
It's time now to do business. I am Beverly Broom, the moderator of the Ashanti Presbytery of the Evangelical Presbyterian Church, Ghana, has urged churches to invest in income generating ventures. According to Reverend Dr. Comfort de la Afeli, the general economic challenges require churches to look beyond offerings and tithes. Here's more. Speaking at the 12th Ashanti Presbytery Synod of the Evangelical Presbyterian Church Ghana, the moderator entreated churches to go into short-term income-generating ventures. Reverend Dr. Mrs. Comfort de la Apele, however, advised on the need to think through the viability of any venture before running a church business.
The revenue generation, in the past, it was just the church offering, tithes, levies, and pledges that give the church income. But now there is donor fatigue. People are complaining, and the COVID too set in. So I urged them and all other people to go into income-generating ventures, not a long-term one, but the one that is capital intensive. You cannot finish. 10 years running, you will not reap anything. So, if you do feasibility studies, and it is cassava farm, you know, respected, but it's generating a lot of funds, especially in the Volta region.
Reverend Dr. Comfort de la Apele revealed the presbytery is set to venture into a mushroom farming project at Konongo in the Ashanti region to increase the finances of the church.
Some of the projects that the Ashanti is undertaking, for example, Agogo, they want to have a mushroom farming, so they have erected the structures. They are yet to invite some people to just help them finish the place with the things that they would use. So they cut, so they go there and cut, so then they start production.
The presbytery also raised funds to continue the Ashanti Presbytery Basic School project. The 12th Ashanti Presbytery Synod was on the theme, Revive Us Again, O Lord, Heal Us. Away from that, Pfizer Global and funding partners Newmont Ghana and GIZ are implementing the Women Economic Resiliency Program, where 80 women dressmakers will receive training to build their capacity. At the launch and commissioning of the Garment Training Center at Suswanso in the Ahafo region, the program's director of Pfizer Global, Kofi Kumsin, said the 6 months training would also position the beneficiaries to provide services required by companies operating within the catchment areas of Newmont mines. Precious Semevo has more.
80 dressmakers selected from the Ahafo and Achim mining areas of Newmont, Ghana, will receive technical skills and business development training for 6 months under the Women Economic Resiliency Program. The program being implemented by Pixera Global, support from Newmont Ghana and GIZ, is expected to cost about $450,000. Leaders of 30 women-owned dressmaking businesses selected from Suswanso, Afrisipa, Adroba, Yamfo, and Tetre are the pioneers of the training program at Ahafo North. At the launch and commissioning of the fully equipped Garment Training Center at Suswanso, the program's director of Pixera Global Ghana, Kofi Kumsin, explained what they seek to achieve.
This will include both technical training. We will also touch a bit on soft skill training, which include behavioral change, and then we also look at the marketing aspect of these dressmakers. All of these women are already dressmakers, but for one or two reasons, some of the products that are in high demands by some of these corporations in the areas, they cannot get local suppliers to actually provide them. So our intention is that we want to help them to build their capacity so that they'll be able to provide these goods that are needed directly by some of the corporations, including Newmont, hospitals, schools, and other organizations or companies located in this area.
The Director of Communications and External Relations at Newmont Ghana, Agbeku Azuma, noted that the project would economically empower the women if they attach seriousness to it.
Women economic empowerment is one of the challenges confronting the world and even Ghana. So GIZ decided to provide the funds for the pilot program in the Afro North project area. And then hopefully we hope to replicate that in Kenya, which is the Afro South area, and then Achim. They're already in the trade. So it's a matter of upscaling them so that they'll be able to do things to a certain standard so they can get contracts to sew uniforms for us and other contractors or other mining companies. And with that, we get to also entrench the local economy or deepen the local economy. And that should inure to the benefit of everybody.
Naomi Yeboah, like the other beneficiaries, is determined to acquire more knowledge to enhance her dressmaking business. I am happy with the opportunity, and I hope to make the most out of the learning process, which could benefit me in future, even if I don't work directly with them again. Precious Semevo, Joy Business, Susanso.
That's all for business now. You can head on to myjoyonline.com for more business stories. I am Beverly Broom.
Time now for sports. Lawrence Bedu is here with the latest. Hello, Lawrence.
Hello, Aisha.
So what's with Otto Addo and his team?
For months now, for months now since we played the FIFA World Cup qualifier playoff against Nigeria.
Definitely.
There have been so many talks over who will lead the Black Stars to the World Cup, and before that, to play the Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers.
Mm-hmm.
There was
the
good
president
news.
Requested that they be maintained.
Yeah, not just the president. Well, the president was the loudest voice,
Definitely.
But then there were calls from Ghanaians as well. And there was good news for those of us who were rallying behind the Tuado-led technical team last night, because the Ghana Football Association confirmed the reappointment of the 4 technical members to lead the Black Stars in the AFCON qualifiers as well as the World Cup. So they will stay at posts until December 2022. That means they are taking over. They will be lead the team in preparations for the Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers. Match day 1 and 2 happens in the next month. We play Madagascar and then Central African Republic. And after that, I think we go to Japan for a 4-nation tournament as well. So they will also lead the team before they come and prepare the team for the World Cup, which takes place in Qatar.
Okay. That's incredible. And of course, what are the term of reference for these 4 members of the technical team?
Aisha, if you can remember, during the playoff against Nigeria, we didn't win any of the games, but then we got a chance to qualify due to the away goal rule happening. The thing is, the team saw something good in this for the quartet.
Okay.
I think they played some good football, they managed the game well, and most of the players, when asked, gave a good account of the 4-member technical team. So it was good omen for them. When they came to Ghana, obviously, people were looking forward to Chris Hughton probably being given the job. But then after what Otto Addo did with the national team, the combination or the teamwork of the 4 members, it was quite a good notion that, or a good omen for the national team, that they kept together to lead the team in the upcoming tournament. And I believe knowing what they did with the Nigeria game represents a good opportunity, because they know majority of the squad, and then that will be of good help when we play the qualifiers as well as the World Cup.
They better do a good job.
That's what we are all hoping for.
Because now they are they have the burden of actually proving those of us who were advocating that they be maintained, they are challenged to actually do a good job. Otherwise, they will let all of us down,
I
right?
think there's a positive to that because, you know, when we played Nigeria, it was just for those 2 games. But in this period, they have quite a longer period to stay with the team and monitor them because the season has come to an end. And then they will have quite enough time to prepare the team very well for some.
Let's see how it goes. Lawrence Bedo with sports. Thank you so much for bringing us those updates. That will be it for News Desk. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Many thanks for watching. You can log on to myjoyonline.com. Over there, you get updates of all the developing stories. See you again at 12.